125th anniversary of Wright in Kankakee. There's a lot of different events happening throughout the year to celebrate this momentous occasion. And someone's got to help put all these things together, right? Or spearhead all of them. And that person here at Wright in Kankakee is Katie Walker. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So that has to be such a daunting task. I mean, it's not every day that something celebrates their 125th anniversary, especially, Frank Lloyd Wright, one of his houses, the Bradley House, one of his, the first prairie, his first prairie style house, right?
Yes.
So how did you start, helping put events together for this?
So we've started planning this year's events in October of last year so that we could get the ball rolling. The events that we wanted to have are things like twilight tours, which are our night tours. So people get to really feel the warmth of the house, the glow of the older electricity and lighting, and really see the ley lights. Then we also wanted to see how we could bring in the general public. So we're hosting things like tea parties and stuff like that. But we wanted to incorporate events that we've also had before and just build off of what we had before and see how we could make this year phenomenal.
So what are some of the events that the organization has been doing for a while that people can expect this year?
In the past, we've done a event called Sip, Shop, and Stroll. And this is a beautiful night where we have wine on our front porch and live music in the lawn. People can access the first floor and actually go and see all of the beauty of the first floor while enjoying the event. We also have vendors that come to that. And then our other event that we've had in the past that we will be doing again is our Right at Twilight. Right at Twilight is a similar event. It's a night event where people can enjoy music and wine and a little bit of the house and the gift shop and things like that.
So with some of these events that are new this year, I know you kind of mentioned a few of them, but uh, was how difficult was it to come up with some of these events, or was it not difficult at all? I mean, I would imagine you'd want to do as best you can to try and incorporate things that go along with the house and Frank Lloyd Wright. So what was that like trying to brainstorm those?
I actually pulled together a brainstorming committee. They
Okay.
didn't have to do any of the events, they just had to come up with ideas. I wanted the youth, I wanted people that have been in the community for a while, people that are invested, but I also wanted people of different backgrounds. So you might enjoy a quiet night at home. How are we going to get you out of the house to
Yeah.
come see our house and enjoy a nice quiet event? Or maybe you like the live music where it's really up and lively. But all of these different community members, most of them are very active with the house, came together and gave me all kinds of ideas. What they've seen at other historic venues and what they've seen in the community that they really want to see here. So we can bring it here and really enjoy it.
So what's your favorite event or some of your favorite events that are happening this year?
Our most surprising event so far has been the Oscar Vanishes.
Oh yeah, that happened a little
Yeah.
earlier this
We had
year.
it in March, and this was a mystery night where we had 6 actors come in and tell us this wonderful story and let us pick their brains about what has happened to this missing Oscar. And everybody dressed phenomenally, and it was a gorgeous event. So that was the most surprising event. Our what I'm looking forward to is the tea parties and the night tours, and of course our Christmas walk.
Oh, the Christmas walk, right? That happens every year as well.
Yes, I love
So
that.
yeah.
The community really comes. They're just so excited to see one, our house, and all the private residents that open their doors to the public.
Yes, and they're usually different every year, except for the
Yes,
the Frank Lloyd Wright House. That's always included. It usually starts here,
yes.
actually, and then they
They rotate through the community every year. They get
Hmm.
different houses
Yeah,
and different volunteers because who wants to clean their house every year
that
for
is
the
true.
public to walk
Oh
through?
my gosh, I that's what I think of anytime I've enjoyed that tour. I'm just like, man, I can't imagine getting my house ready for what they do. So, what are some of the other events you want to let people know about that are happening?
We have some more musical events and lectures. We have um, our Christmas walk, like always.
Yes.
That's a keystone. And trying to think, I don't. We had to cut some stuff from the list because it was
Okay.
quite a bulky
Yeah.
list.
Well, it's already. How many events total? It's quite a few.
There were close to 15 when we started. Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot for,
So,
uh, a smaller organization to kind of put all that together.
yeah. But
So,
our concerts and stuff are going really well. We had a pianist come in, and it was a very intimate little concert in our space. And then we've had all kinds of different instruments come into the house in the past, and now we get to really see them in more of a concert mode.
yeah, that's
So,
special.
yeah,
That's very special. Well, Katie, is there anything else that you want to add?
come enjoy the
No?
house. It is
Okay.
a beautiful house, and it was a pleasure to work here always with or without the events happening. Tours are amazing, the house is amazing. It's a nice, warm space.
All right. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
So we are lucky to be able to sit down with some of the board members from Wright in Kankakee, celebrating the 125th anniversary of the Frank Lloyd Wright House here in Kankakee, right along the river. A newer board member to Wright in Kankakee we're sitting down with right now is Taylor Leddin McMaster.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming over and hanging out with us today.
Of
This is cool.
course. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You might recognize Taylor for many different things. One of them being that she is a writer, an author, and you have been. I know you just got involved with the Frank Lloyd Wright House,
Yes,
but
yeah, just this
um,
past year or so.
yeah, and she has
Mhm.
a column in the Daily Journal that you can read as well. But what made you want to get involved with Frank Lloyd Wright? I mean, you just started like 3 months ago, right?
Yeah, so I have done with my time at the Daily Journal, I've done a number of stories on the house and have gotten to know the executive director Bob and have learned a lot of the history about the house. And a couple years ago, my husband and I wound up moving to Riverview, so I get to drive past this house every day. And when the opportunity came up to learn more about it from the inside, I was like, yes, I absolutely want to do that. So I'm still certainly in the learning process of everything. I've never been on a board before, but it's my goal to let people know what is here and what the house has to offer and how people can enjoy it.
I mean, it's pretty cool. This is your first board to be on. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a pretty good board
yeah, kind of
for your.
surreal. Like it's crazy to live so close to this house and then to be involved with it. It's pretty wild.
So, what are some of the things you've learned then, just in your short time as a board member?
I guess I didn't realize how many people, well, not how many people, but how far people travel to come to the different houses throughout the country. It's pretty staggering. I don't, Bob would know the numbers offhand, but he was telling me how many countries people have visited from, all the states. I think they've hit 50 states sometime recently. So it's remarkable that people are that enthused about his work and to get to sit in it and breathe it is I can't take that for granted at all.
So, what do you have like a job on the board? Like, do you have a certain committee that you're a part of?
Yes, so I recently took on the role of the director of marketing and communications. So I'm going to be developing an Instagram presence to go along with the Facebook page that already exists, and
Oh,
really,
that's going to be fun. I mean, this whole house is
yeah.
Instagram worthy.
Yes, I know. Yeah, you might have noticed me taking pictures outside. I'm like, I got
Yeah.
to build up the camera roll and get stuff to post. But there's just so many little things that are worth peeking at. And I don't think people realize how much is here and how much detail is in the, I mean, just looking at the windows and the books throughout the house, all the original woodworking is incredible. And then to take that and say, there's so many events that are here that you can be a part of, and so getting people excited and involved is the goal for sure.
Awesome. So, what do you want people to know about the Frank Lloyd Wright House here in Kankakee?
Well, especially with this year being the 125th year, there's a ton of events going on, and I think that there's something that everybody can enjoy. So I would encourage them to take a look at the list of events, whether it's a concert inside or outside, whether it's there's different tea parties, both for you know a high tea kind of thing, or like little kids can bring their dolls and have tea. So it's accessible for all ages and all interests. So there's a lot going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Taylor. If
Thank
there's
you.
anything else you want to add?
Keep an eye out for Wright and Kankakee on Instagram. It's
Oh,
coming
you're
soon.
right. Of course. Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Yep. So, not only are we going to hear from board members today here at Wright and Kankakee, but we actually have a volunteer with us as well. Someone who is very special. Just the little bit that I've talked to her before we started recording, she's got a very interesting background. And that's Mary Lou Martin. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, you help maintain the gardens
Yes.
here, and those are so important. Those were we were talking about before we started recording that everything in this house that Frank Lloyd Wright designed, it was very deliberate, and I think that includes the gardens,
Oh,
right?
very much the garden. And that's why, in some ways, it looks the way it does. He was a reaction to the Victorian age with all of the fluffy flowers, all of the plants, the shrubs that would cover up your house. And if you come here, you'll notice that there really is very little ground covers covering up his baselines and that. So we keep it minimum. He liked from where he came from the farm up in Spring, Taliesin East, where he grew up or spent summers. He liked the open field, the glens, the kind of the natural look. So, I mean, he really wanted to take advantage of the view of the river, the breezes coming from it, the wonderful oaks and walnuts that were here, and kind of building around them. We have a couple that are still here from that period. So it's and then thinking about Frank Lloyd Wright with the intentional design, would he really want his house covered up
No,
with
he would
bushes?
not. No way.
No.
So, with that being said, I mean, what kind of plants and greenery is actually outside, or does the house maintain then?
Well, I mean, a couple of gardens have been put in, and I have to say we are building on what Sharon and Gaines Hall had done when they restored the house, and she had put in quite a bit of the gardens. So we've kind of maintained that and changed things a little bit since we want things low, and not that she put in any bushes, but we were trying to keep the plants low. He also worked with Jen Jensen, who was a famous landscape gardener at the time who believed in using the native plants and what was around. So he was very much into using native plants, not going with, all of these exotics. So we were putting in a small garden in honor of Joseph Dodson, who bought the house, and when it was known as the Bird House or the Bird Lodge.
Yes.
So we want to, since he owned it from like I think 1915 until 1954. I mean, he was a grand caretaker. Now,
Yeah, he owned it for a long time.
yes, and
Yeah.
it helped keep it what it was. But if you see some of the pictures, it's all covered with bushes.
Yes.
So we're putting him off to the side.
Oh, okay.
But we want to honor him because he was a caretaker and he did a wonderful job of
Right.
keeping it. So we have some native plants down there. We put in some blueberries and some prairie crab apples, some yarrow and bottle brush. So, and then we're just starting it. So we hope to kind of have a sign there, just kind of honoring him and his work.
Well, speaking of, native plants and things like that, is there any when you say that, I think of like things like the Kankakee mallow. Is there any of that on the?
Kankakee mallow is located on Langham Island.
Right.
And
No, I know it
only,
is.
and only there,
Yeah.
unless there's one or two spots in the
Well,
country. So
yeah.
we wouldn't try doing that. We're just trying to do native plants that, I hate to say it,
Sure.
where you can buy them and put them in. And we also are looking at, we come like 3 days a week and work 3 hours each time. And it has to be low maintenance because we
Yes.
can't all put in 24/7. So
Right. Yeah. That's and your background is in art.
art
So
history, yes.
art history. Thank you. It's still art. But
Not
your
if you
background
saw what I draw.
But your background is in art history, and I know that for probably not just the 125th anniversary,
Mm.
but just like going forward, there's some things on the inside that you would like to do. Uh,
Well, we'd like to have some programs that kind of provide a little more information about Frank Lloyd Wright himself, how important he was, because the prairie design house is so different from what was being built. You had your two-story houses, you had your gingerbread, they had, well, we have a basement too, but it was a whole different look. And it was the Victorian age, and he is kind of a reaction to it. Also, you had new materials at the time. Concrete was fairly, I hate to say that, it's either concrete or cement, and I'm afraid I don't know the differentiation.
yes, there is a difference,
And I
and
forget.
one comes before the other,
Yes.
and yeah, I don't remember either, but
But the one that he used, I mean,
yes,
it was a fairly new material that allowed you to do kind of some of these open plans. Because if you want to look at an open floor design, Frank Lloyd Wright is one of the first ones to introduce it, because back then you kept the rooms smaller, or they were built smaller, the way you could frame it
and
out,
everything was closed off.
and then you could keep it warm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, that's true.
So new materials helped them change it. So I think it's kind of important to know all of the changes that he made. And then while it may not be the Prairie House, but maybe down the road, we kind of include the newer things that he went on to do, like, the Guggenheim Museum or the Unisom houses. I mean, he had a lot of really innovative ideas.
Right. This is just kind of where it started.
Yeah. And we're
Yeah.
lucky.
Oh, we're very lucky. Mary Lou, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, as part of the 125th anniversary, to help with this kind of getting to know Frank and getting to know what the Prairie House is, we are organizing a talk on Saturday, June 7th. We're planning for it to be at Olivet at the Reed Hall of Science. And we're getting speakers in to talk about prairie design, about Frank Lloyd Wright, about the Bradley House. We'll go into how it was restored and what that takes, and then some of the other prairie houses that came along. So we're looking to put that all together. It's in the process. So it should be a full day. And then following that, if you've come to the programs at Olivet, it'll be at Olivet Nazarene, we're going to have an open house back here. So if you haven't been to the house, you'll at least be able to come in and maybe have a punch and see the downstairs. So we would hope everybody would come. And then actually that weekend is Frank's birthday.
Oh, how fitting.
So on Sunday, June 8th, we're having an open house birthday party for Frank. It'll be open to the public, free of charge. You just come in, you'll be able to see the house, have a cupcake and some punch, and toast Frank or toast the house or whatever you want to do, but help celebrate his birthday.
Okay.
So we hope everybody can join us.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you, Mary Lou.
Thank you.
Yep. One of the other newest board members on the Wright and Kankakee board is actually someone you may be familiar with when it comes to Kankakee Podcast, and that is Steve Case. Welcome, Steve.
Hi.
Always good to see you.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Of
In a
course.
new space, I guess.
In a new space, different topic. Architecture is a science, sort of, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And science is right up your alley. But what made you want to become a board member for Wright and Kankakee?
So I was actually approached by a colleague at Olivet who's on the board, and he said, "I think you'd have great things to contribute." And I have just always loved this space. There's just something incredibly unique about being here in the house. I've brought different Olivet groups to the house several times. We've done student retreats, we've done faculty writing retreats, and there's just something about the space. It's incredibly unique, and so I wanted to be a part of preserving that, but also promoting that to the community. So those are some of the reasons behind it.
So what's it been like being on the board so far?
Learning a lot. Because it's I'm not an expert on architecture. I'm not even an expert on Frank Lloyd Wright, and so there's a lot to learn. But also learning how this space is utilized in the community, and how to really promote it in the community as well.
What's been your favorite thing to learn so far?
Frank Lloyd Wright as a person, I think he just had such an interesting life. And so, reading some biographies about him and sort of what he did and how he embodied so many of his values and what he thought about architecture and living spaces and how space works, in places like this.
Now, what I would like to see is, a Steve Case and Frank Lloyd Wright to like their worlds combined.
Okay.
And I want like some type of sci-fi inspired short story or book to come out of,
This, I'll tell you what, this is a great place to write in.
Yeah,
right. So
right.
like I said, we've had faculty writing retreats in here where we sort of meet in this space at the beginning and kind of talk about like, this is what we're working on today. And then we just break up and we go into all these different rooms. We had a professor who was working on a musical. She was writing a musical, and she wrote some of the music upstairs in one of the bedrooms on one of these writing retreats. So, I think there is something that the space does for the creative endeavor.
Awesome. Well, what do you want people to know about Wright and Kankakee, especially on the cusp of the 125th anniversary?
Yeah, well, I think you're going to hear about that today with some of the other people you talk about, but we have some really exciting events coming up. And I think there are so many people in this community. I felt the same way when I was the planetarium director at Olivet. Like, we have this amazing resource in our backyard, and people I would meet all the time, they're like, yeah, I've never had a chance to get over there and get in and see that.
Or they just don't know that
or they
exists.
don't know it's there,
Yeah.
right? So I'm really excited about some of the things we have coming up that are going to give people an opportunity to get in the house and see this space for the first time, perhaps. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's
Okay.
great.
All
Yeah,
right.
you got it.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. There has to be someone in charge that helps run this whole organization here at Wright and Kankakee. And that person happens to be the Executive Director, Bob Bohlmann. Is that how your last name is pronounced?
Bohlmann. Yep.
Bohlmann. Okay.
Very good.
I wanted to make sure I pronounced that correctly. So welcome, Bob.
Oh, thank you very much. Glad
Yeah.
to be here.
Thanks for letting us come to your house.
And many a times that's what I say too.
Right? Yeah.
You're in my house,
Yeah.
so welcome.
You have such a storied life and career. How did you get into architecture? Because you are an architect, so you're the perfect person for this position. How did you become an architect?
I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, so I knew you fix things yourself. You build things yourself. My grandfather was a German carpenter, plumber, electrician. I helped shingle my first roof when I was in third grade. So
Oh my
I'm familiar
gosh.
with a hammer and nails and whatever. But we moved to Illinois in 1959 and going to St. Paul's Lutheran School right here in downtown Kankakee. When you're in 7th and 8th grade back then, they had shop for the boys and home ec for the girls. I will admit, I love to cook.
You were telling me that before we started.
But first couple of weeks, you learn sheet metal. Then you learn electricity. Just don't touch both wires at the same time. Then one day the teacher said, go back to the closet and get these wood boards, bring them out of the closet with this thing called a T-square. I'm going to teach you drafting. And all right, cool. Sat down and he's teaching us machine drawing, drafting. Hey, you can work for Roper. You can go work for Caterpillar. You're drawing machine parts, tools, things of that nature. A couple of weeks, and I fell in love with drafting, coolest thing in the world. And he says, oh, I should mention, if you draw buildings, you're called an architect. So in 7th grade, drafting, heard the word architect. So 8th grade, high school, any courses that were math, science, shop, drafting. And then there were only, I think, 3 schools of architecture back then, accredited schools of architecture. U of I Chicago, U of I Champaign, and IIT. Well, IIT was Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, German. Guess where I went to school?
You went
So-
there.
And I learned glass and steel architecture, and I retire into a Frank Lloyd Wright prairie house.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I like how you just summed that up like no big deal. But, you had your own firm. I don't
Yes.
know, you're right? And that was right here in
In
Kankakee,
Kankakee.
or still is, or I know you're retired, but
Right.
is the
No, it was one of those. I had various interns that if
okay?
somebody adapted and wanted the firm,
Mhm.
terrific. But at the same time, in architecture or being a doctor or some other profession, it's you that is providing the service. It's
Yeah.
not a building, it's not machines, etc. So when it came time the last year or two, I said, all right, I will hand off some of my clients. But yeah, I practiced here for 45 years. I will say, the first 20, 22 years were with Turner Wood Architects, who did a lot of the buildings here in the area and the state. Then in 1994, I spun off on my own and had my own office, actually in the old A.O. Smith building, for anybody who remembers that
Oh yeah,
facility.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So what were some of the buildings that you designed here in Kankakee that are still standing? Are there some still standing today?
Well, I was the type of architect that if you want a 50 to 100-year building, you come to me.
Okay, so that's
Oh, you want retail or you want a hamburger joint that's going to be great for 5 or 10 years?
you.
There's other architects in town. I guess just to give you a little list, I sort of start with Olivet University, because if anybody has been to Olivet, then I'll start with my favorite building, Centennial Chapel. I did that with the Rafati organ in it.
Oh my
Seats
gosh.
3,000 people. Well, it's 125 rank pipe organ.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.5 million just for the organ. The last project I did was Reed Hall of Science, the remodeling and a big addition to that. But I did the admissions center right there at the entrance. Well, the masonry entrance walls, 2 additions to Ludwig, Weber Center, remodeling of Burke, many other buildings. So Olivet was a terrific client. It was like family over the years. But then I also did Kankakee County work, well, since 1970. The 1909 courthouse was built in, well, as I said, 1909. But when it was built, it had 2 courtrooms. Well, it now has 9 courtrooms,
Yes.
7 of which I designed. But then the annex building just south of that, I worked on the jail, the administration building, many other buildings.
Was Jerome Combs your design?
No, was
Okay.
not.
Okay.
I was in the competition for it, but it was one of those that, well, here's the estimate we say it's going to cost for the quality, and somebody else beat us out, and so
Yeah.
be it. St. Mary's Hospital, did work there from 1980 until the end. Surgical intensive care unit addition, the OB suite, the lab, surgery was all mine. A fascinating one, though, is you think of a hospital as sterile and clean. I did a couple of different projects at CSL Behring. Do a pharmaceutical production room sometime if you want super unbelievable clean. And Aqua, Illinois, so there's some name dropping.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man, that is just the Olivet projects alone that you
If
did.
you've been on the campus. Yeah.
Right. I mean, just that alone really speaks volumes, especially Centennial Chapel. I mean, that is a huge venue that people always talk about, always, constantly. So then during that time, obviously you knew about this house. Did you have any affiliation with the house during that time, or did it not come until your retirement?
Actually, interesting story. I had my first dinner here December of 1966. Turner Wood Architects, typical firm. We're going to take the employees out to dinner. Bring your significant other. I didn't have it. I was a senior in high school. I was the office boy. So I learned architecture from the
Right.
ground up. And they said, we're going to go to yesteryear. And actually, the dining room right next to us here was their private room for their Christmas party. And then Turner Wood actually did some work here with the addition for the kitchen and other. I remember coming here with a draftsman, and I held the dumb end of the measuring tape and actually helped measure. So I go back to 66, but it was in 2013, I was still practicing, and I received a phone call that said, Bob, we have an opening on the board. We think it'd be great to have an architect on the board. Are you interested? Well, Frank Lloyd Wright's first Prairie house, and I'm aware of the house. Yeah, I'm interested because my wife and I had only lived 4 blocks away. So we had walked here to have dinner, and I knew Steve Small, et cetera. So sure, I'll be on the board as long as I don't have meetings or a project. And then we've alluded to my retirement. 2016, I said, okay, I put in the time. We're going to politely bow out. And 2 weeks after I retired, I was asked by the president. The executive committee said, we need an executive director. What are you doing now? So I volunteered.
Yeah. And it's since, that's been almost 10 years at this point.
I'm glad you're doing the math. I didn't want to count. Yeah. I kind of look back and go, well, wait a minute, 2025. I came on in 2023, so that's already 12 years. But
Yeah.
And
Wow.
time flies. I sort of make the point, especially when we have young, 3rd through 8th grade kids here at our educational lab. My definition of success, you don't necessarily have to go to college to be successful. To me, the definition of success, and it's not a lot of money either. You have a love and a passion for what you do in life. You do it well, and you get paid to do it. I always say I never worked a day in my life. I got paid to do what I love.
Yeah.
How do you beat that?
Yeah, there's nothing better than being able to do that.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, I want to dive into the history of this house, but I figured it would be better to do it while we walk through the whole house. So
That'd be fantastic.
I mean, what better way than to get a tour of the house and learn about the history? So as long as you're okay with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
happy to do it. It's called
Okay.
showing off.
Okay. That concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Kankakee Podcast. Shout out to Stephanie Vanderweide for supporting the show each month through Patreon. If you want your name announced on a future episode, you can sign up at patreon.com/Kankakee Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsors, Chicago Dough Company, Noble Dairy Queen Stores, Frank's Appliance Center and Sleep Source, Pigosh Engineering, King Music, Little Me Studio, Taco John's, D. Westfall Jewelers, and Edward Jones Financial Advisor Adam Elroy. Kankakee Podcast is produced by the fine team at Pathfinder, a full-service marketing agency in downtown Kankakee. Learn more at yourpathfinder.io. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.
This river